Lauren Harper is a South Carolina politico and a well sought after communication strategist. I talked to her one-on-one about politics for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook. Lauren Harper, welcome to the award-winning Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thanks for having me, Quintin. Good to see you.
Likewise, obviously, you are a South Carolina political and a communication strategist. You are also obviously the co-founder and senior advisor for Secure the Ballot, and is in partnership with the Blue Lab, which is obviously in which you obviously are the state executive director for Blue Lab South Carolina. And of course, as I just talked to you on Instagram recently about it, I know now that you are obviously an ordained minister as well.
Yes, all very fun and fulfilling things.
Fulfilling things. What particular biblical scripture describes you right now?
Right now? Oh boy. So I was praying this morning, and the proverb, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge him and he'll make your path straight. That's the one that's standing out to me today. It's not necessarily a seasonal thing, but that's for today. And so just grateful to be where I am, and continuing to put my faith in him and believing that he'll make every path not just straight, but beautiful,
What has that path been like for you professionally?
It's been, I think that maybe that scripture is the perfect way to, I guess, describe it. So go Holy Spirit. He always knows what to do. I think that's a great question, because I never necessarily intended to be in politics. And I think that putting my faith in God and just allowing him to direct my path led me there, because I wasn't into politics in high school. I got into it a little bit in college when I was interning for different people, like now State Senator Mia McLeod, and I interned in Mayor Benjamin's office, and got to do some really fun projects and those things. And so public service, I think, kind of stole my heart. And it wasn't necessarily that I wanted to be a political consultant one day. It was just like, well, this is how you can influence people's lives. So let me continue to do work in this space. And I guess that proverb is just kind of, self-explanatory there, because that's how it worked out.
What is the space for public service these days?
So I think that public service looks a lot of different ways right now. Whether you are doing what we're doing with Secure the Ballot and working to register people to vote, and making sure that they are not only engaged as an electorate, but educated as an electorate, making sure that they understand the nuances of voting and of political and government processes and even elected offices, but also doing work, is directly serving people. So, creating different spaces for people to come together to talk about issues, creating programs and policies that address people's issues. And that's what, what more elected officials or people on different boards and commissions will do. And then you have the space where you are an elected official yourself, and you are directly serving the people and being a representative of the body in the constituency that you represent. So public service can be a lot of different things. It could also be, you serving at your child's school, or you serving as a coach for young people. Just any time that you, kind of lay down your personal, comfy lifestyle and do things for other people that you don't necessarily have to do, but you want to do. I think that's public service.
What are those issues that you're bringing people together for?
Definitely things like voting and voter education. I think that an informed electorate is an empowered electorate. And, obviously people, when they're registered to vote, they are able to directly affect change through voting. So that's my passion project. And then also kind of keeping people abreast of what's going on in the world. So I have a political newsletter called Circle Up SC that is tailored for young audiences, so millennials and Gen Z people. Sure. I should say younger, because millennials are like 40 now too. So millennials, we're getting up there. But it's tailored for young people so they can really understand the nuances, like I said, of what goes on at the State House each week. It's a weekly newsletter, so wanting people to stay, up to date on what's going on, because it's really hard to follow sometimes, even if you, do get the news alerts and you do follow reporters on different social media platforms. It's a lot of information at one time, especially right now in South Carolina. There's a lot going on right now. So we try to keep it as a digestible piece of information that people can understand and stay engaged with.
Let me just jump right into it. And obviously, this is developing news, as you know it. The heartbeat bill. The South Carolina Senate and the House of Representatives obviously have passed the fetal heartbeat bill, and Governor McMaster will sign it into law, I believe, at 12:30 this afternoon.
Oh, today? Wow.
Yes, ma'am. Exactly right. Is this, and I know you're not obviously a lawyer, but is this considered an unconstitutional impediment under Roe versus Wade?
The bill itself?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, also not a lawyer. Can't really tell you. I think that there is a very high possibility that it could be deemed unconstitutional by the Supreme Court because of Roe versus Wade. But again, there's loopholes to all sorts of things. So we'll see. I don't know what to expect, to be quite honest. I didn't expect it to move this quickly, so who knows what's going to happen.
And, people that I obviously talked to in the state of South Carolina, obviously this is a very emotional subject, but many people that I talk to say, hey, when you talk to women, and most of them ask us, if a woman is forced to have a baby by the South Carolina legislator and dies in childbirth, is the state going to compensate her family for the value of her life? And let me ask you, in your opinion, should the state compensate?
For the value of her life? I don't know. I don't want to necessarily say what the state should or should not do here, because it's such a touchy subject for everybody. I think it depends. It's so touchy. I don't know, because some people I don't know if it's necessarily something that people want to say that they want to support or don't want to support and follow through with and don't follow through based up until even that person. I don't know. I really couldn't tell you. It's so touchy. I really don't know. I really have no idea.
Yes, ma'am. Oh, no worries at all. And let me turn it over to obviously teachers, because as you know, too, Governor McMaster said last week that schools can safely reopen now without making our seniors compete with younger, less vulnerable South Carolinians for vaccine. He says he's called on the General Assembly to send him a bill requiring every district to provide parents and students with an option for 5-day in-person instruction. He says he's still waiting. How should the General Assembly put before Governor McMaster a bill that authorizes DHEC to vaccinate all teachers, staff, and school personnel immediately?
Okay, so you broke up just a tiny bit there, so let me make sure I understood the question, Brett. So you said, how should the General Assembly get people in the state vaccinated? Like, what's the process? Yeah,
put that bill before Governor McMaster so that all of these teachers and staff and obviously personnel get vaccinated immediately.
Right. So I want to say the Senate did push through this bill so that teachers could get vaccinated. I think that when we talk about vaccination, I think we need to be relying on our public health experts in terms of the rollout. Even if we relied on people who are experienced in logistics and supply chain, maybe it's not necessarily maybe that's not necessarily the public health route to take, but it seems like whoever is really good at administering large amounts of a product at one time to different parts of the state, I think we should maybe get them involved. People joke about, maybe we should get Chick-fil-A to do the vaccine rollout just because they're so efficient in the drive-through line. And, maybe we should have that type of thought process, because whatever we can do to creatively make sure that it's efficient and effective, I think that we should take those routes. And if the legislators who are maybe not themselves experienced in those types of processes don't have that experience, maybe they should rely on other people to do it with them.
And, earlier you talked obviously about politics and the legislature and what's going on in Columbia right now. And I went back on your Twitter page recently. You said this quote, "South Carolina can never stay out of national political news. LOL. It's really incredible." Why South Carolina? Why politics? Why news?
South Carolina is always in the news. It's very good, I think, because, we get media attention. I think that media attention, people say bad publicity is still good publicity, and I kind of agree with that. I think that it's important to stay in the know about things and in the public discourse. But I'm very just intrigued and always fascinated. And this is not something that I necessarily, am always understanding every moment of the day, but South Carolina always has such an impact in national politics, whether it's through Whip Clyburn or through Senator Lindsey Graham or through Ambassador Haley, and just all the people who are always, just seems to be Senator Tim Scott, people who are always in the news. And even South Carolina being the first in the South primary. Last year we were the first state to outside of New Hampshire, Nevada, but the first very diverse state, I should say, to have a say in the process. And we saw what happened with Congressman Clyburn endorsing now President Biden. And so we're seeing that South Carolina has a lot to say clearly over the years, and has historically as well. So it really, just like I said, it's just something that continually fascinates me, and I'm very intrigued by it all.
And let me get obviously back to you, obviously with your consulting firm, City Bright. Let me ask you this. How do you communicate and strategize politics in South Carolina right now?
How do I strategize? Boy, it depends on the level of government. It depends on the person and the client and all those things. I like to keep my focus on more of a local level. Okay. So obviously, we think about, statewide or countywide issues, or even, issues that are specific to South Carolina that other states. Right. Very interested in making sure that we address issues that are going to be directly felt by communities at the local level, whether that's your neighborhood, your city, or a house district or whatever it is, because I think that the more we make issues very large and very statewide and very even national, we kind of forget about how people at the local level will feel about things. And I think that kind of takes away and even contributes, I think, to partisanship. When you think about a lot of issues at the local level, that's why, I'm grateful that cities like Columbia have nonpartisan mayoral elections and city council elections, because a lot of these issues for the large majority of the electorate are nonpartisan issues because they are so local. And so if we can try to create more programs, policies, concepts at higher offices that are specific to how people would respond at the local level, I think maybe we would have less division in addressing them.
What are those gaps in politics and public policy right now in your mind?
What are the gaps in public policy?
Yes, ma'am, and politics.
Well, I think that is something I've been thinking about a lot is, why do we, and I understand that, we have to think nationally about our country. That's not something I'm necessarily forsaking. However, I think that because I am so, finely tuned into issues of South Carolina, I think that we kind of hurt ourselves at times when we talk more broadly about the rest of the country, because it's like, look, I know South Carolina has lots of influence in the federal legislature and across the country, and like I said, in the media, we have a lot of issues that we just need to talk about with ourselves. And so if we can try to create them as a local discourse and a local rhetoric instead of maybe a national perspective on it, then I think that maybe, perhaps, I'm not saying this is the answer for every issue, okay, but perhaps we could create better programs and better solutions, and also create less division within those solutions.
What exactly are those local nonpartisan issues?
So think about, like, you're in Charleston, yes, and I'm Colombian. So what are the things that you see when you are just out and about, right? Homelessness, people on the streets and it's cold outside. What are issues? What are solutions that we can create for housing? So that directly affects homelessness. So affordable housing, mixed rate housing, things like that. And I'm personally very nerdy about affordable housing. So that's like kind of a passion area for me. But when that relates to even when you're in that house, are you able to afford your utility bills? What's affecting your utility bills going up and down in that house because you are able to be secure in your home. But that doesn't always mean that your home is secure in itself. And then you think about who's in the home, right? My children, my spouse, whoever, do my children have good education? So it's like, if you can just think about your day-to-day life in terms of, how you are affected each day and how other people around you are affected. And then on top of that, who you don't know, how those people are affected, because so often we get into our bubbles of, people thinking that things are not real because they themselves have not experienced it. So how do people who don't live like you live life in your city specifically?
Where do we start with the conversation?
I think it is, naturally fitting for our municipal elected leaders. So our mayors and our city councils and even our county councils. And I think that when you are able to talk about it at those levels, like I said, largely they're usually less partisan or nonpartisan. So it maybe is a conversation that we have there. And then we need to have greater collaboration, I think, with our state legislators. Do our city and county council people have enough conversations with the delegation that they have at the State House? So is the Charleston delegation communicating enough with the Charleston, North Charleston, Dorchester area city and county councils? I don't know if that's necessarily happening right now, and I'm hoping that maybe we can get into that place where it does happen more.
Let me turn to 2022. I'm pretty sure you'll be busy. From a federal level, obviously, to a local level. And as you know, there's a mayoral race coming up in Columbia. Mm-hmm. What's your vision for 2022 for South Carolina?
Right. Again, I think maybe this theme of, thinking about South Carolina specific to our state and our state's needs and the people's needs here, and also being mindful and being thoughtful of the different types of people who are here, whether it's based on race and ethnicity or income level or even education level, whatever it is, it needs to be, I think, whoever is running very inclusive of a lot of those different perspectives and backgrounds and their views and their lenses of how they view the world and how they view problems in our state, trying again to try not to make it an issue or a campaign cycle that is very keeping the national issues, I think, abreast. I think the less we focus on the national rhetoric, the less partisanship we have here.
When you look at I'm pretty sure you have a vision board and everything.
Actually, I don't have a vision board. I've never made a vision board.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
okay.
Not something that I don't know. Like I said, I didn't plan to be here. I'm grateful to be here.
Yes.
I'm grateful every day to be here, but it was not in the plans.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, let's say hypothetically, if you were to design one and you were to put some pictures up on those boards, who are those people that we must watch in 2022 politically here in South Carolina?
The must watchers for 2022. Oh boy. Well, we have a governor's race, a gubernatorial race, and we also have a U.S. Senate race. Right. Junior Senator Tim Scott's up. So, and I think that's it. I don't. Oh, I'm sure are there any congressional races? I'm sure there's a congressional race or two. Yeah.
Oh yeah, right here in the first. In the first congressional district. Yeah, I'm sitting right here in this district right now.
Yeah. Oh, because they're up every 2 years. Dumb.
Yes,
okay,
ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
we have. Yeah. Duh. So we have a lot of races up, right? So it's going to be an important year. Who are those people? I don't know. I read the state newspaper and Post and Courier like you do all the time. I'm like, ooh, so this person might be running. This person might be running. I'm excited. I think it's very early. We had teasers with, former Congressman Cunningham saying he was announcing something, and then it was a podcast. So, not sure if he's going to run, expecting him to run, but not sure what it's for. So I'm interested to see who it's going to be.
Maybe your old boss?
Which one?
Steve Benjamin.
Yeah, potentially. I don't know what he's going to do. Okay. I would love to see him in another office because he is such a great leader, but I don't know.
Lauren Harper, thank you so much for your time. And again, welcome to the award-winning Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thanks for having me. I feel special that I was on Quintin's Close-Ups.
You're welcome anytime.
Thanks, Quintin.
Thank you.